ahead and start the recording. And as promised, I will stop it, as I said, during the time. Let me make sure I've gotten my audio here too. I got good audio levels. Yes, yes, yes. It looks like I do. That way I'm getting the recording. I'm actually going to do Zoom as a backup recording just to make sure. It's usually very laggy if I do that with on Zoom, the actual recording. But just as a backup, just because I'm getting a little bit of back and forth as far as on the audio here. But as long as you guys can hear, just let me know in the chat box. We're good to go. All right, we are going to be talking about coach your team to success. Everybody, it's nice and clear. You're not getting any feedback or any gaps, any lag happening. Let me know in the chat box, please. That'd be great. Perfect. Thank you, Michael. I love this, Michael. Okay, you just have to come with me to every session, all right? Because you're so interactive. Rochelle, thank you very much. Very helpful. Of course, perfect, Chrissy. Crystal. Sorry, Crystal. Thank you, Crystal. Yeah, I saw that T as an I, see? All right, so now take a look here. If you need anything Google, go to grow.google/grow so you can go there and take a look and see what Google has to offer in any session that is available there. Your partner who invited you, your Google partner, can bring me back. You can also see the hashtag Grow with Google. If you are learning something and you want to tweet and post that out, feel free to. You can also tag me. This is me on Twitter. This is me. The second handle there is me on Instagram. And I would love for you to do that because I'm happy to repost or retweet. You never know who that connection is, and networking happens all the time, online or offline, right? So we are going to be talking today about coaching your team to success. Now, you might be wondering, what the heck does she know about coaching teams to success? Well, I've led teams for the last 37 years. I actually started and cut my teeth on my career working with a large retailer and being responsible for 500 people with 23 direct reports, and that was fresh out of college. So I definitely have the leadership background. But coaching, I'm actually a certified coach. So I'm a professional coach. And I actually went through all of the certification and 2 years of training for that. Plus, I've had 37 years, as I said, life experience. So I do want to give a shout out to our Google partners here as we look at our Google partners. Whoever invited you, if you have a question afterwards, you need support, you need clarification, maybe even just how to implement something, this is who you reach out to. And this is important to know because understand that while today may be helpful to you, it really needs to be an investment of your time. And the only way that it can be an investment is if you apply what you learn. Knowledge is not powerful until it is applied. Okay, so do not believe the myth that knowledge is power. It is not powerful until it's applied. And as Michael alluded to, we do have the replay slides and handout. Of course, the replay is not there right now because I'm live, I'm not recorded, but you can go to this URL right here, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat box too, just in case, or you can use that QR code. Okay, so feel free to, oops, there we go, we'll copy, hold on. Getting a little bit, there we go. Then you could also use the QR code. It will take you there. Understand that if you've never been to this site before, you will need to put your email and a password. You'll create your own password. Understand that's to keep it password protected for only the people that attended the session. You can get the slides in the handout right now. They're right there. The replay will be there later this afternoon as soon as I upload that, which will be as quick as I can, okay? So just understand that you can already get the slides that I'm using in front of you if you'd like that nice visual just right there in front of you instead of utilizing the camera here, and you'll have the handouts to follow along too. So feel free to go there. Again, if you have been there before, then you'll have to enter your password. If you don't know what that is, you have to reset it because it is password protected, just to make sure that everybody that actually accesses it was actually here in the session. Okay, so yes, we know that startups fail. I have worked with about 170 different startups. All right, everything from people starting in the garage to ideation where it's just being sketched out on a actual scratch pad, piece of paper, even a back of an envelope. Not the experience of Southwest where we've done it on a napkin, but I've seen people go pretty close to that. So do understand that that's where, from startup all the way till the growing of an international e-commerce business, covering all sorts of countries, dealing with marketing, distribution, 3PL, warehousing, trucks and lorries, and all the customs and VAT and everything else that comes in between. And I know unequivocally that what will make or break a small business are the people. whether or not there's leadership there or assumed leadership, whether or not people there feel that they are a part of the team or whether they feel like they're in constant combative competition. So this is really important for you to know because businesses don't just fail from cash flow. I understand that I talk about that a lot. If you've ever been in a session with me, I talk a lot about cash flow because it's important, because we need to be able to support with resources and invest back into our business and still make a living, right? But also know that the people on your team, as you delegate out and you bring people to your team, that will make a huge difference. Even the freelancers that you work with will make a huge difference because each of them represents and speaks on behalf of your company. When you think about it for you right now, I am here with you today, broadcasting out of Midland, Texas, but I am speaking for Google on Google's behalf. I walk into sessions, conferences, in person or online, speaking on Google's behalf. And for you, this is what you see. Or of course, the experience that you have if somebody hasn't responded to you also in Google. So we have that. But understand that that is the same for your business. It's the person that's belly to belly with a customer. When my husband first started with HEB and I first started with HEB, there were just about, I think, 30,000 employees at that time. There are now over 600,000 employees. But the employee that's belly to belly with the customer support person that they work with, the person who responds to the email or that chat bot that actually represents you, understand that's all who's belly to belly with the customer, and that is your company. And reputations, just like anything else, are hard to get past. In fact, it takes us about 7 to 8 to 52 times to be able to change a reputation. Okay, because that first impression is so lasting. And that's what your team does for you. So as we look here, we know that people do fail for that reason. So it's important for us to learn great skills as managers. Now, I say that, but it really is as a leader and coach. I'm not fond of the term manager. I actually learned very early on in my 20s that you manage things and you lead people. People are not things. They have feelings, they have dreams, they have hopes, they have lives outside of the time that they work with you. So you can lead them and help them. You can inspire them. They must motivate themselves. It has to come internally, because if you think you're going to put that on there, it might be like a thin Band-Aid or a cream, but it doesn't last. It has to come internally. And understand, you manage things, but you lead people. So we're going to talk about that, really leadership, but I'll talk to you about what the difference is between a coach and a manager, because a coach is more of a leader. And then also how to provide meaningful feedback, because a lot of people don't understand that it is important to give good feedback, good and constructive as well. This is really important, because do understand that nobody comes to any business right at the get-go to say, I'm just going to be doing the absolute minimum. I know sometimes right now you look at Gen Z and you think they just want to do the absolute minimum. No, everybody would like to excel at what they do, but whether or not that is inspired by the feedback that they receive and the attention and communication will really be on you as the leader in the group. So let's go ahead and dive in here and talk more about what a great manager actually does, okay? And while I say manager, I'm still very much of the school of thought leader. And understand, just so that you know, a little bit about my background before I worked with Google, actually, or on the Google team, because I'm not officially on Google other than a contractor. I've been on the Google team for about 6.5 years, so I've done this on stages across the world. But understand that I also come with a small business background. So 18 plus years in small business. I've earned the Texas Governor's Excellence in Small Business Award. I've also earned the Person of Vision Award for the state of Texas, the Businesswoman of the Year. So I do understand business, and I started it very much from Business Incubator. So I do understand about leading teams, and I've led international and continue to lead international teams. And I very much come from the background of leadership skills will make or break a team. Before I did any of this, I worked for Stephen Covey Leadership. So I did leadership training. I very much understand live leadership. Plus, I'm still a national trainer for the 5 languages of appreciation. If you don't know what that is, I'm happy to share that with you. So as we go through here, these are the 10 attributes of a good manager, all right? So I'm saying manager, but remember, I'm very much I go to the leadership realm very much. Create an inclusive environment. Everybody needs to feel safe and comfortable whenever they're working with you. They do not need to feel ostracized, because if that's the feeling they have, they will be gone. Even if they're still getting the paycheck, they're going to be mentally, emotionally, and and really, as far as the dedication, it's gone. So they need to feel that they're included in every single way. They also need to feel empowered, which means you don't micromanage. Nobody is looking to be under anybody's thumb. And I always say the poorest form of leadership, the poorest form is leadership by authority. I'm the boss. That's why. This is my title. I'm the director. You need to honor this position. That's the weakest form of leadership ever. So as we look here, you want to support their career development and discuss their performance. Yesterday, I fired somebody, but I also promoted somebody. So I know the difference between being able to give constructive criticism and understand what people's goals are so that you can help them align and coach them through being able to apply the best version of themselves to the team. All right, as we look through here, you want to be a good coach. So good coaching is very important, as well as a good communicator. Let me stop here for a minute on good communicator. This is vital. Communication is not one way. This is not just communication. This is presenting. This could be, if I was an evil doer, a villain, this could be monologuing, but this is presenting, right? Communication is two ways. It has to be heard, received, and delivered. Okay, it has to be all of those things. And understand, even if one of my most favorite books that I ever read when I first graduated from college was Leadership Effectiveness Training. And the first training within my first month of graduating from college was working with a team, and I was actually going through the training, so I wasn't the facilitator, but we had to stand in squares in the room and we had to make statements as we went through difficult conversations. And if somebody felt that they were safe in the conversation and felt that you were listening to them, they would take one square step forward. And if they did not, they would take one square step back. And it was our job to get right belly to belly with them. And if we couldn't, we stayed there until we could. So that is part of when I talk about communication. And it's vital because without communication, you cannot build relationship, and without relationship, you cannot build trust. And people will leave businesses in an instant if they feel that there's no relationship there. But if there is a relationship that's more than transactional, meaning more than a paycheck, they will stay, and they will step over dollars to stay with people. And understand, when people leave, they don't just leave businesses. They really leave whoever is leading the team. They leave whoever is supervising them. So that is who they absolutely leave. All right, as we go through here, have a clear vision and strategy. Just haphazardly running around or having it in your head, keeping it like it's secret squirrel. You can't tell them. If you do, they're going to kill them. You do need to share your vision and the strategy to get there, because if they don't know the whole picture, how can they apply their whole self? Be productive and results oriented. Really look at the results that they're bringing in. Sometimes it's not so important how they get from A to B. Sometimes it's just in their own way. And that's the hardest thing as small businesses that I see happen, because small businesses are so used to being butcher, baker, and candlestick maker in their business. So they're used to controlling everything. So dot that I, send it this way, use this template, the post needs to be laid out like this. All of that is what's known as micromanaging. What is the result that you want? Because people will apply the best version of themselves if they know what that result is, if they understand how they actually contribute to the whole goal and to the bottom line. They will bring them their best selves. But a lot of times, if we don't do a good job communicating that, we actually fail them at the very beginning and putting that structure. And any foundation that's put without that kind of structure then becomes like foundation on shifting sand. It is not as all a strong foundation. We must be able to collaborate. Understand, however you get to point B, as long as you get the same results, that's good. It doesn't have to be my way or the highway. I would much rather hire somebody who has the right attitude of collaboration than the skill set. I will step over skill set to go for the right attitude. This is vital. I can train for skill set. I can find lots of people willing to train. I can send somebody to school for skill set. I cannot for attitude and the ability to collaborate. Be a strong decision maker. This also can motivate or demotivate your team. If you're very wishy-washy and you leave everything up to them, which means that at any moment this business can collapse, that does not give them the kind of confidence that they need to have the trust that the business is here for them. And have key technical skills to advise the team. Even if you don't have those key technical skills, know where the resources are. I've brought in coaches several times. In fact, I have a coach right now working with one of my team members who needs to understand email marketing. He's a conversion rate optimization coach, so he understands how to put conversion into email. She's a great email marketer, but her conversions need to increase, and she feels that she needs this, so she's getting that. I've worked also with team members who are doing Facebook ads, and they don't understand how to do the testing, so I've worked with meta coaches to help them bring right up to the speed that they need to be. It's an investment in your business, but when people see that, they will not leave. They will stay with you forever. I've got several different people that I've worked with for 18 plus years now. You do want to be a good coach, and we're going to be talking about how that coaching brings in your leadership skills. So it is about unlocking the potential of the person that you want from them, you to maximize their own performance, all right? It's helping them learn. It is helping them learn, okay? So this is not consulting where I tell you what to do. This is, listen, there's the goal. We need to all get there by June 30th. And this is how you might want to get here, but you tell me what you need to get there. You're the specialist and expert in what your need is to help support you from getting to point A to point B. So as we look at the manager's continuum and the coaching, I really think this is the difference also between a leader and a manager. We see that a manager shares and influences. I always know when I've got a manager that I'm working with because they like to be friends with people. They like to influence people with that kind of relationship compared to a leader who really looks at that individual and decides and develops them. That's a big difference. And this skill set sometimes is hard to bridge that gap. It doesn't matter how many performance improvement plans I've put together. This is a hard gap because when somebody wants to be the leader, they absolutely I want this. This is part of my ego. It's hard for people to step away from their ego. They would rather give up high-paying jobs and have and preserve their ego. But what you need to really decide for you as you take this step into coaching is, what do you want to do to grow your business and have and preserve relationships? There are many times where I make the choice and decision. I would rather preserve the relationship than be right. I don't need to be, hey, Maria's right. Poo-poo on the rest of us, but Maria's right. No, I am much better with keeping the relationship and preserving that because I know what the business goal is. Very much my eye is on what that goal is, to make the business profitable. So how can you be a good coach for your team? All right, let's talk a little bit more about that. Good listening. It's I hear you, I see you, and it's good asking. Remember what I said about communication being a two-way street? Sometimes you send it out. But if you send it out and it's just off, the airways are just a little bit off, so it comes into somebody's receiver, they get that, and it's just not completely your clear message, it's still on you to clarify that message. And it's important for you to make sure that they understand that and that you also receive their message. It's on you, especially if you're the coach and leader, because you are the one who wants to get from point A to point B and to help them get there. That is what your actual position is, to lead them through. Working with people is like herding cats. It's not easy, but understand communication is core to that, and it's a two-way street. So as we look here, we talk about good listening. I told you about the exercise that I had to go through. I encourage you to do a good exercise to really understand how good you are at giving as well as receiving, because that's what good listening is. It's active listening back and forth. And this is one of the exercises I like to do whenever I'm in person with a team, and that's ask somebody to instruct somebody on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And that's pretty funny to watch, actually, because I've seen people say, okay, put the peanut butter on the bread, as in front of them there's a jar of peanut butter and there's a loaf of bread. And what I've seen people do is take that peanut butter jar, completely enclosed, and smash it onto the loaf of bread, because there is no clear instruction of what needs to happen next. There's a lot of assumptions that happen there, and understand a lot of our assumptions are built from our own experience that only we have walked, that we've only lived. So as we look through here, you can see level one is that internal listening. It really is, are you paying attention? There are times when I have to tell people, you know what, I am distracted right now. It is important what you're saying, but I can give you my full attention in the next 20 minutes. Right now, I am not going to listen to you, and I feel like that's a disservice to you. Compared to, yes, if they are not there, you don't have the internal listening, you've got to know that and understand, did you get it? Did they get it? Did you get it? Then also level two is factual and focused listening. So you're focused on the facts or objects. We've all seen that person who listens just to solve it. That's all that they're doing. They're not listening to grow and build the person. They're just, okay, what do you need? Let me solve the problem. That's it. That's all they're listening for. When you think about that in your relationships, think about that with your significant other or your spouse, your partner. How does that feel when all they listen to is just what they need to fix, right? And that's it. Because it becomes almost very transactional. And understand in relationships, it's never equal, is it? It's never, okay, I did this for you, now you need to do this for me. If you expect that, you're going to really have poor relationships. There's sometimes where I overdo for you and I overlisten. There's sometimes where you over communicate for me as well. There are going to be moments like that. It's important for us to understand that that's the nature of people, and we need to know how people receive information as well. And then also there's level 3, that's empathic and whole body listening, because you know that 68% of our communication is visual. It's body language. It's non-verbal. So just listening to the words is not enough. That's the hardest challenge for those of us who work remotely, is to be able to communicate in digital format our body language. So that's why, again, you see some disconnect there happening as people grow their business, because they may look at a Slack message and somebody says, good to go. But we don't understand that good to go is really good to go. They don't really hear that. We miss all of that body language. So it's good to go back and reconfirm too, especially since lots of us are building businesses again virtually. So it sounds like to me, it's also important here to suspend our own agenda and really stop for a moment. It sounds like to me you feel this way. So remember what I said about I promoted somebody this week. She came to me actually last Friday and she said, I would like this position. I would like to do this. I feel I can do this. So I asked her, what is it that you feel that you need, and how do you know, and how will you feel, or how do you know when you've achieved this, other than just the title? What is it that you're looking for? Where are you at now, and where the gaps are for you to get to that title to feel comfortable? If you feel you're already at that title, let me know why. I really want to understand and walk in your shoes for a moment. So that comes back to good asking. Good asking is very important. Ask the right questions, not just yes, no, now I can go be on my way. We know that it's more of an active listening and more of a question that really fills in that blank and lets them talk so you can understand them, not from your mindset, but truly from their shoes. So as we look here with that good asking, we're really talking about the who, when, and where questions. This is critical, right? It's not just the why, but the who, what, and where, and the what and how. Okay, when I asked that question of this team member and I said, okay, what do you see yourself doing? How do you think you're going to get there? And what gaps do you feel like you need to fulfill? Those are all what and how questions. She understood that I was very much keen to it and wasn't closing it down. May not have been able to fit it in the budget right away, but I want to know what the steps are so I can plan and support her as well, because I know she very much loves the business, is vested in the business, and is invested in her career. So for you, those open-ended questions, the more than just the yes, no, but the open-ended questions are what's going to get you there, because you need that information from them. You cannot fill in the blank for them. You cannot tell them what they should do. We should not should on people, right? Don't should on people. And I said should, should, but I know a lot of people like to should on people, and we don't want to do that. So what you can do is ask yourself, if you are the one speaking, why are you the one speaking? Because when you're coaching and leading people, you are actually speaking less and they are speaking more. So it really means listening. I find that most managers have the biggest issue right here in active listening. They only hear partially, or they listen for the facts to be able to fix the problem, and that's about it. So this is the wait. Wait is, why am I talking? Why is it me? Of course, I'm talking right now. I'm in presentation mode. Even though I have that chat box up, I'm in presentation mode. So I am not coaching right now. I'm actually presenting ideas to you, where if I were to coach you afterwards, I would say, which of these do you need to apply? What do you feel where you're at right now? Where are some of the gaps? What will help you fill those gaps or make you feel comfortable that you're where you need to be in your listening skills? And what are you going to take action on? So that's a lot different, but I will coach you at the end, all right? So as we look here, the good coaching questions are 3. What's happening? What's the current state? Okay, not what you're assuming, that is. Just like assumption is, not good. It makes an ass out of you and me, just like it spells out. but you really want to know what's happening in their current state in their terms, in their words. What's most important to establish that? Okay, what's important to them? Yes, it's important for us to get, we've got to make, double income. We need to increase our revenue by 35% and our website visits by another 25% from our website users to our sessions. That might be it, but what's most important to them? Where are they at? It could be, okay, they are helping you with website traffic, but they really feel like they don't know their ad copy and their creatives well. They really need that support because they feel like that's the area that they're missing, or they don't understand conversion rate optimization, and exactly the layout of a page makes a big difference on exactly where people convert. So they might need an understanding of that. Listen to them as experts on them. They are experts on themselves. And then how do you get there? What are those steps? Find out from them what they see those steps are. If you need to coach them through and see if those steps are feasible, or do you need to look for a better, more economical way, or maybe a more practical way, or maybe it's just not ready for this next step because that's something that the business is not ready to do. But here are some of the micro steps that need to happen that can get you there, still all leading everybody to the same positive results. So keep those 3 questions in mind. Now, for you, it's the grow model that we talk about. What is the goal you want? That's what I'm talking to a team member about. What is that goal you want? What's the reality of today? I want to be the best email marketer. But the reality is, I know how to write copy, but I don't know how to work with any of those email platforms. So I don't know how to do flows or transactional sunset flows. I don't know how to do recommended buy or abandoned cart. I don't know any of that. That's a reality of today. I know how to write great copy that brings our customers in on the website, but I really don't understand that flow of behavior or what they add to their cart next to increase that ad or that average order value. What are the options for action then? Explore the options. Listen to them as experts. What are some of the options that they may actually bring? Because understand, there is a book. John Maxwell is also somebody that I love to watch, and I've actually been through a lot of his trainings and done the training on the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And one of those laws is the law of the lid. So that is the leader's skill set. If that's all that's leading and growing that group, then it's the law of the lid. You cannot grow past that leader. Whatever that leadership skill set is, or that leader skill set is as far as the business can grow. So it's the law of the lid. 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. I'm a bookworm, can you tell? All right. So we also need to look for those options for action. What are those actions, and what steps will they actually take? Are they actually going to go away for a year and go to school, or are they going to do this where they're learning through courses online? I've seen some businesses that will support people in going away that long. Some will say, no, you know what, we're going to do this all online, but we will still support and reimburse you, or we'll meet you halfway. What is it that will actually take them there? We'll have you work with a coach. We'll actually have you work and focus on this and take some of your responsibilities off of you so you can really learn and make sure that you feel comfortable, not just with the idea of it, but the implementation of it. So as we look at the GROW model, these are the questions that we really need to ask ourselves. All right, has anybody used the GROW model? Let me know in the chat box. I really like to know. Everybody's been really, really quiet there, and I want to make sure the session is good for you, so let me know, okay? Anybody use this GROW model? So never. Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate you being very open and honest with your own background in that. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. No. Okay. So when we look at GROW, perfect. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the honesty. Then you're here to actually learn, right? And start thinking about what you can apply. All right. Thank you, Rochelle. I haven't heard of it before, but I've heard of levels of leadership and coaching. Absolutely. So as we look at the GROW model, we start with the goals. This is where we ask and listen. That is key. Ask and listen. Remember, think of it just like, if you're a radio, I'm going to go back in the day with radio, right? We all use Spotify now and different, oh my gosh, so many different tools that we use. But when something's sent out and if the connection isn't good, for example, if the connection's laden with distrust, or it's with a lot of distractions, okay, people keep interrupting and Slack messages keep going off and my texts are going off and I'm not paying attention, then I can't listen. So understand it is from one tower to the next, you being one tower, them being the next. Really, are you receiving this? So it's asking and then listening to be able to move forward. So here are some ways you can ask, what's that goal? What is really most important to you now? What matters to you most? Okay. That's really important to know too, because what matters to me does not necessarily matter to you. So it's really important. And I actually like to ask this several times over because I understand that people will give you surface level answers. They like to be able to deliver that. Haven't put it into practice. Hello, Vince. Thank you. This is what I do. I didn't know there's an acronym, right? Melanie, I'm all about acronyms. I'm with you. I love it. It just helps me remember better. That's one of my things that just helps me really solidify what something is. So, how can I help? What's on your mind? Okay, is there something on your mind? I had somebody whose brother was into heart surgery. She was so distracted for a day, and I said, "Okay, what's on your mind? What's going on? Because this doesn't feel like you firing with all pistons. So, is there something I can do to support? Do you need something that maybe we're missing?" So I'm asking some of these questions. What and how? What are your innermost interested needs? What does success look like for you? What does success look like, sound like, and feel like? I take people through those three questions pretty quickly, but I like to know because people give you surface level answers, which are not the real answer. And what's the best outcome? Okay. So as we look at that, now let's talk about reality. All right. What's really there? I want to be the head of the company and CEO within the next month. Okay. Is that real? What have you done so far to get there? What's happening right now? What could you learn more? Are you getting feedback from your fellow team members, your colleagues? What are they telling you? What kind of support do you have? How would you rank your different priorities if that's your absolute goal? Again, if your perspective is very welcome, okay, it says it right here, you can consider these feedbacks, okay? So think about that. Skills, accomplishments, reputation, that's what? That is the, what do we call it? Everybody? Well, there's another acronym for this. I like to call it SOAR analysis because it's strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and reality. But I know it's also SWOT, known as SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, right? Anybody else use SWOT? Yep, SWOT, very much. Yes, SWOT. Perfect. Thank you, Meninda. Or Medita. Thank you. See, this is what I miss for us not being here, because then I could listen to you and really hear the pronunciation of your names instead of butchering them. Heard of them, but unfamiliar. Okay, so options. What are the options? So, what's the possibilities? What experiments could you try? All right, I'd like you to mirror so and so because they can really help you. We have a customer service team member because I do work with a lot of e-commerce, in fact, international e-commerce stores. One of the international e-commerce stores I work with has 28 members in their marketing department and 14 in operations. And one of the operations people would like to work in marketing. And she asked me about that. And I said, okay, are you willing to shadow some people then and really spend some time on socials to see how conversations flow and how it's really relationship based? Okay, so what else? What else? Ask them over and over again. And then give them opportunities to show themselves. I've got a web designer right now who is going through a big web design, and it's a big stretch assignment for her that she knows that it will, once she gets that under her belt, that will take her to the next step to a management position. And then what are they willing to do? What's the next right step? Okay. What's the deadline? All right. We want to know exactly when they're focused in doing this. Time is everything. Whenever we look at goals, remember SMART goals. You've heard me talk about this if you've ever been with me in other sessions, but it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Goals have to be that specific. So what time? We want it to be timely, right? When are you going to get this done? Not when you're 99 years old. If you want to get this done within the next month, then what needs to happen in the next 2 days? What needs to happen in the next 5 days, a week? If you have 6 months, what's going to happen then? A lot of people who follow me on socials realize that on June 26th was halftime. All right, it was halftime. I like to tweet and post that out because that means if your fiscal year is from January 1st to December 31st, June 26th is the halfway point. And if you're not halfway to your goal, what are you going to do differently to get there, to make sure you meet your goal? Or what are you going to do to adjust that goal given all that you've learned in the past 6 months? So before, in the first half, because to expect to do the same thing the same way and get different results, that's the definition of what? Insanity, right? So as we look at this, what is that and how are you going to monitor and track that progress? as we see here, the next thing to look at is a coaching case study. All right, and in this case study, while I bring it up and it's talking and coaching her through a negative issue, I'm also going to bring up some examples that coaching doesn't just happen when somebody needs to have constructive criticism. It can also happen when you're giving positive information and you want to encourage them to do more of that. Okay? All right, so as we look at this, we've got Angela and Claire. Angela is a small business owner and Claire's manager. So as we see this, we see that she set up a coaching session because Claire's always been late, right? So we're not always, but lately it's happening and she just seems unfocused, not happy. So something's going on with Claire, actually with Claire. Angela's the manager. So we're going through the scenario. In this scenario, what would we talk about with the goal you want? Looking at our list of questions that I just provided you and that you do have in a copy of the actual slides that you have at the link I gave you. If you don't know what that is, let me drop that again here. Hold on, everybody. I'm going to just give that to you real quick. So anybody who joined us before or after, I should say, I put this, now you have this available to you. Okay. So what's the goal that they actually want? What is the reality of today? That's really important also to take a look at. Where are they at? This is our baseline, right, everybody? If we're looking at things, this is our baseline, okay? As we look through here, also, what are the options? So think about this. As Angela moves into some reality questions, she learns that Claire is really caring for an ill family member. This is key. All right, so one time I was working with the president of Texaco and Schlumberger. For those of you who are in Texas, you understand the names of those oil companies. And actually, it's Chevron Texaco now, and I've worked with their CEO as well. But when we look exactly at these companies, with the Texaco president, he was actually on the school board, and the school was having trouble with one child, and it was so much so that it became such a big ruckus that went to the school board. The superintendent even knew about it. But then as they coached this child, 6-year-old child, they learned that the child was living with grandma, who was very ill. So every morning, this child would go and get his cereal and his milk. He would even stop by the convenience store and then he would walk to school. So he was usually about 10 minutes late and he was getting reprimanded for not being committed to school. 6 years old, right? He's basically what? Maybe in kindergarten, maybe at the start of first grade if he started a little bit early. And now you're already reprimanding him for this. So think about that. Do you ever have those instances when that actually happens to you in dealing and working with people? So as we look here, oops, there we go. I'm still on the slide. Sometimes when she's late, she has to actually schedule and have extra support at home, and she has to wait for home care to get there. All right. So the stress of this home situation has made her unable to focus. So that's what she found out with the reality of today. As you ask questions, because sometimes we're so busy, right? There's just not enough hours in the day. We run out of that day and we think, okay, well, just meaning to talk to them next time. And before you know it, a week has gone by. So it's really good and important to check in, especially if you see a change in behavior. So that stress of home has now carried over to the situation. Do not be one of the first managers that I ever worked with. And I remember him really well because I got pregnant during that time. And during that time, he told me he never wanted to hear of the pregnancy. He never wanted to know that I was any different from any of the other people there. That if you ever heard of the pregnancy or if I ever was late because of the pregnancy, then it was over. And that is not a good manager. So as I look at that, I do want to make sure that people don't have that experience and they truly feel heard for everything that is a part of who they are, not just the worker, but them as a person. So what are the options for action? So as we go through this, they actually came up with a plan to do some marketing work from a coffee shop so that she was available right there close to the house still as home care was coming in, especially if she was evaluating a new home care worker. She felt like she was right there and not having to get downtown to the office, which would make it really hard, especially if her grandma had some doctor appointments. Then they also started meeting every other week just to make sure that they had a good plan and that it was still working for them. So those are some of the steps they put into place, and they creatively problem solved. So if we are a bit more human and treat people a bit more humanely, we might get further and more from them. People will, again, they will leave businesses, but they will not leave relationships. And you cannot microwave those relationships. It really does take time and communication and building trust. Remember, if you want a copy of today's slides that I'm using right now, instead of just doing these screenshots that some of you are having to do, make sure that you go here to the URL that I just dropped in the chat, as well as you can see it right in front of you, or utilize this QR code. Okay? All right. When you are giving good feedback, all right, so we're going to talk about how you can help your team grow through good feedback. You want to keep it balanced. Now, some of you may have heard of the sandwich method. You want to talk about what's good. All right, the meat is, all right, this is what we need to work on, constructive criticism, and this is what's good again. But understand that it's still good to talk to people when it's good. You don't need to just talk to people when there is a problem or an issue. If that's the case, then they see you just as somebody who likes them transactionally, but not so much supporting who they are as a person. And that makes a big difference on what is motivating them to be able to move forward. So people see you through exactly the feedback that you give. It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, and then it could be another good thing again. But if the good outweighs the bad, then they see that and acknowledge that you see their performance, you value them when you do say good things. And of course, there's an opportunity to actually give that framework and model that for them. I am very much about modeling, right? Not do as I say, not as I do. I'm not about that, because people see that. For example, if I'm looking at you right now and I say, all right, make a fist like this and put it on your cheek. This is your chin, everybody. Your cheek is here. But a lot of times when I do that in front of people and I say, all right, make a fist, put it on your cheek, they do as you do, not as you say. So it's very important for you to model that behavior for them. So as we model this behavior and we give good feedback, now people can see that that's what they need to do. And how we say it is very important. So what we're going to do, I'll bring this front and center, is we're going to describe the situation. And then we're going to talk about the behavior. Not just the person, not saying you're not smart, you don't listen, you don't care. Those are assumptions. What's the behavior? Well, you didn't make this goal, and then on the 14th, you also missed this goal and you were late. So I'm wondering what's going on. I'm talking about the behavior. I'm not going with the assumption that they don't care or that they are looking for another job. I am looking specifically at the behavior. And how has this impacted not just their outside abilities, but also their work and their contribution to the goal? We need to discuss, clarify, create those options, okay? This is really important. So we want to link it to a business goal. So I'm saying, listen, I know I've been seeing a lot of people upset. They don't seem happy when they're walking by you. Something, going on, because that's the situation that I'm seeing, and I'm just seeing them draw back from you. And when they draw back from you as a manager, that means that they're not coming to you. And that might be that, that affects our goal, because we need everybody to be able to speak freely to each other. So I'm bringing again the exact behavior there instead of the assumptions. And that's hard to do because we're all used to speaking in assumption speak. But we need to get past that and really look at the behavior itself and the impact that it has. Okay, so we have the SBI, situation, behavior, and impact. I love those acronyms. So remember what I said about having positive feedback, because it's not just all about the negative. So for example, it could be, hey, the situation, we're in the coffee shop and it's morning. So I'm working in a coffee shop. And what I saw you go above and beyond to take care of this customer. I saw that you helped them with bringing in their chair, you held their bags, you held the door, you waited patiently while they sat down. So I'm now picking apart the behavior that I actually observed. And because you did all these things, the customer actually reached back to us. This is very much a true story, even when you're talking about negative. I was working with a retail company team, and so they had cashiers. And at the checkout, they were about to let go of a checker that wrote, excuse me, sorry, but they wrote on a check for an elderly woman, and they wrote the check incorrectly. And so they were going to reprimand her because she did it all incorrectly and the company lost money. But then when we coached her through it and really found out what happened, it's because she was 17 years old, new to the world of work, and she's never written a check in her life, let alone seen a checkbook. or known how and what to put pay to the order of anything like that. Her pay was being direct deposited. Everything that she did was on an app. She had never seen a check in her life. She did her best when this customer came to her and said, "Honey, I can't write this. You know, my fingers now are a little frail and feeble. Will you write this for me and fill in the blank?" She was attempting to help. She just did not have that background. Now, imagine if you let go of somebody like that and compared to what they were really doing, they just did not have the skill set to get there as you pick apart that behavior. So in this instance, it could be that the store got busy and then you didn't perform, you just went ahead and ignored it. Not my job, not my job description. I'm not going to do this. So now that puts our customers and staff at risk. Again, when I say you didn't perform, I would pick out that behavior and say, what was it? You know, you walked past the spill on this aisle. You didn't want to clean the customer's table. You said you're just going to wait for the busboy when you saw he was already dealing with the pallet that fell down in the back and you couldn't find him. So what was your next step? That actually put customers and staff at risk because now we have debris on the floor that people could slip, or we have debris at the table and somebody could get injured if they try to sit there and then they slip off or something slips off of that. Again, pulling apart that actual behavior and the impact, tying it all to goals. So the mindset for giving feedback is this: always positive, right? And when I say positive, I always start with, listen, you did this well. You know, you came in here and you did this, you showed up, and it could just be that you showed up. But then there was something, you know, maybe you yelled at Marcy and then you asked Christina what's wrong with her, and I want to understand what brought you there. Trying using these steps because preparation is key. It's going to feel really uncomfortable at first. Remember what I said, that I'm also one of the national trainers of appreciation at work. If you've ever heard of it, if you've ever heard of the book, The Five Love Languages with Dr. Gary Chapman, well, he partnered with Dr. Paul White and understood that love languages would just, saying that at a workplace would just throw HR into a fit. And we wanted to call it appreciation at work. So people receive, you know, acts of caring or acts of being able to give quality time, words of confirmation. All of those are ways that you can do that with people in understanding what their listening skills are and their style and their personality. It's really important for you to be an expert on your team, because if you can model that for your team, now they'll become an expert on your customers, right? So as we look at this, be yourself. You've got to do it as you. Don't use words like, okay, if I'm not going to use the word preparation, I'm going to say get ready, then that's me. I'm going to talk about get ready. If I start sounding like somebody else, it sounds so insincere. So we need to make sure that the conversation style is something that matches and meets how they want to receive information and how you speak. It's very authentically you. And then, of course, share more positive motivational feedbacks. Okay, 5 to 1, not just all the negative. 5 positive, 1 negative. 5 positive. Look for it sometimes. We have to. A lot of times when I'm coaching people through goals, I'll ask them, what are 3 things that you accomplished today? They all look for the grand things. Okay, I've got to have conquered the world, or I need to make $1 million. No, what you accomplished today is, hey, I was able to get here and talk to Chrissy at the office. I needed to talk to her. I also accomplished getting everything on my to-do list. I know I have a tendency to overschedule myself in a calendar and wonder and have that to-do list hanging in my head. So I was able to get a to-do list down. And I took a coffee break. I understood that, hey, you know what? I'm a workaholic and I need to take those breaks. And today I started taking a coffee break. It doesn't have to be grand. It's one step in application, and applying what you learned and what you've been coached through is more important than it being something grandiose to be able to celebrate. You can celebrate little celebrations. So again, to recap, because I understand your biggest struggle may be cash flow right now, but one of your next biggest struggles that will even be higher than cash flow is going to be the kind of people that you work with, how they represent you, and the time investment that you have there, as well as the liabilities. So are you including and working towards this? What are you going to apply? You heard me say that a while ago. So true. I just put my hand on my chin. Manita, we model, we see first, we hear one thing, but we see one thing. And we always take in what the nonverbal is. That's why, that nonverbal I said is over 68%. And I want to say it's even higher. than that for a lot of people because we do read just a lot of body language. But are you implementing these? What do you need to do to get here? So let me coach you for a moment. Where are you at this? Okay. What are some of the steps that will help you get all of these 10 key attributes to be a part of and naturally who you are? So it feels like it's very authentic. All right. What do you need to do to get there? Where are these gaps that you need to get to anything that you see as, hey, I'd like to focus on this right now? And what are you actually going to do? Yes, that's the grow model. And I use it quite often. If you've ever been in a session with me, I use it all the time, right? All right. Remember, goal, reality, options, and of course, what will you take the steps of? Remember the feedback? And now to the resources. All right. So you remember you do get this absolutely in. Let me copy that again if you missed it at the very beginning, and let me send that to everybody. This is where you get a copy of the slides. And if you wait to just a little bit later this afternoon, I will have a copy of the recording for you. All right. If you want to learn anything more with Grow with Google, there's a lot there. Everything from what you can do online digitally to you growing your business like we talked about today and coaching your team to success. And if you have a business that needs visibility, this is one of the free resources that I actually created to help coach you through applying a new habit, which could be that you need to get your business found, because I do a lot of times work with people in search and visibility. Hey, I'm, on the Google team. This is what I do. Feel free to go here and utilize this. And if you need any questions answered, go to the Google partner that invited you. They do and are vested in your success. They do care. They do have team members also that are there to support you. So they've got the boots on the ground, and they also know what the local resources are that can help and support you too. If you want to stay connected with me, you can see where I'm training next at Maria Coaches, but you can also go to this bit.ly link /find Maria, and it will come up with all the socials I'm on. I'm on every social. You can connect with me at the one you feel most comfortable and use most often. The big question here though is, are you going to model what you learn? So look at me modeling. When I give good service, I ask for reviews. You don't have to feel obligated to do this, but I would love and appreciate and be honored if you provide a review, because I always like to hear what I need to improve upon or what I did well so I can continue doing that well. And I like to model all the time what I tell people to do and coach people to do. Now, what are you going to apply? This is really critical. So let's go to the Q&A section. As promised, I'm going to go ahead and turn off, let's see, the recording here. Let me turn this off because I don't